even at this time of this process, I will admit I was going to abandon it. I had a lot of things that were functioning that showed future success. But then I realized, or at least my conception of what it means to succeed in Hollywood didn't really align with what I thought happiness was, at least like from what I could perceive. So I thought like if I wanted to quit, what would be a more beautiful dream? And then I thought that there wasn't one that was more beautiful than studying philosophy in Paris. Hi, so this series is going to be about how to get into La Sorbonne and how to stay in La Sorbonne. The first video would focus more on the getting in part, so the applications, what it is that's necessary that goes into your dossier. One specific change that I discovered while doing research, because it's been a while since I did this process, and also I would just like to reiterate that please just take whatever I say as general advice. I'm not a professional whatsoever. It is just me shedding light or sharing how it is that I went through this process. If Campus France is available to you, please speak to an actual professional. But yeah, I hope all your dreams come true, and off to the first video. Basically, I'm going to walk you through the process of applying, not only through papers that you need, but things that you need to anticipate that would make you feel hopefully less alone and less like, what is happening? And after that, just a few more questions to give you an idea of what it actually means to stay in a foreign country as a student. So what level is this for? And this video is for people who want to apply on the bachelor's level. And this will be for people who are not part of the EU system. And it is for people who are obviously also not part of Switzerland. It is for people who are part of the 72 countries that would be in one of the many links that I will share below on how it is that you will apply as a foreign person who wants to enjoy and work really hard to study and stay in France. At the time, did you already live in France or were you applying from abroad? So I was living in LA at the time, and with that, I applied through Campus France. What you would probably use is the DAP, and I'll give you a link below on how it is that you would actually apply for it. As we go with the questions, you get a clear idea of the process. How important was your French level on paper versus in reality? Yeah, at this point, on paper is really, really important. And I know that there's a question on like what is required, so we'll get to that soon. But you just need to study to pass the exam. Most people have found my channel from my first series that I made on how I passed the B2 in 5 months. I'll link it down below, but you need to get B2 to get into university. But it seems that there's this new kind of language certification that is required for you to be eligible to apply. The links that I apply is in general Campus France for application higher education. And then after that DAP, which is this dossier blanc, which is what you would apply for. What you will need generally is your birth certificate, OG in French, which original in French, passport as well, your high school diploma, your high school grades, and then the other thing that they didn't actually mention in this like dossier blanc that I saw was that they didn't say to have a letter of recommendation or a motivation letter. But when I applied, it was necessary. Caveat, like, or parenthèse, the interesting thing about like these things, and it's really frustrating with administration, like, reference letters, like constantly just having other people vouch for you and categorize you and define you. And the same as like motivational letters, like, you're like, oh, existentially, who am I? What am I doing? What is this all for? It's very chiant. It's very like, why do I have to keep proving who I am? And part of me could be like, well, it's because I want this other thing. But I've also come to realize that if I just want to be positive, because you have to be, everything's just very difficult. It's like, now I have like a list of a lot of people that have supported me along the way. So I hope that throughout this process, even if it's difficult, that you also see, for the most part, this need to engage with other people and to have help. It's not a very comfortable process, but you also grow a stronger relationship to yourself and wonder like, what is it that motivates me in life? Why do I want this? So there's this thing called like the TFC, and this TFC just seems to be kind of like, the format looks very, very strict to me, but I also am not familiar with it at all. But what it seems is that if we look at the dates, is the 1st of October, this is for 2025, just for me like scanning the dossier blanc. It is 1st to 15th is when you can do all your submissions. The 13th of February is when you do this TCF test, and then your dossier is complete. And then on the 30th of April, the universities make their decision. And the 31st of May, you need to confirm on your behalf which university that you chose. If it's the same for me, you get 3 universities. And then, there's also usually like a first or second round. So the universities make their first pick. And then if you don't make it, that's why there's like a bit of a delay in between. Towards the end, if you look at the letter for dossier blanc, it actually does say that there are a few people who are exempt from doing this TCF. If you're like from Switzerland, or you have like, something to do with like education in a French institution. But it also seems that if you do a B2 DELF, you don't need it. I didn't take that path. I did my B2 at Alliance Française. I have the whole process in that series that I mentioned. But message Campus France, you pay this fee, they have this whole dossier thing for you, you send it to them, they review your dossier to just make sure that everything is correct, because once you get into the French system, you realize like it is a very fucking annoying process, this dossier situation all the time, because it's like you miss something and then it's a nightmare. So they call you back, they want to make sure that you have your choices. The first thing that she said to me was like, are you sure you want to do philosophy at Paris 1? Because it's extremely selective. And then, yeah, I got in. So don't listen to your counselor either. Just in terms of how difficult selective it is, they don't get to decide, the universities do. So just go for what you want. Which part of the application took the longest? Well, the B2 DELF, so studying and getting the results. Again, my series goes through the whole process, from preparing to the exam itself to how it is that you might actually get and ask for your results earlier so that you can actually make it for applications. What I want to say is that I've been lucky, and I'm grateful to always have a person who's there to be like, I wish you all the best and I want you to see through this process. Because while you're doing it, it feels so thankless, because you're like, I'm applying for this thing, I am putting aside a lot of my current obligations to get this done. But you need to think about yourself for the future. So then don't think about the rewards or whether it's not going to happen, but just give yourself this opportunity to choose in the future, is what I want to say about the will to complete your dossier. When you received your acceptance, was it conditional? There's this thing called like an exonération des frais. Even as a foreign student, you pay local prices. So that means that instead of paying like 4,000 a year, you pay 400. What did the acceptance letter not explain? It didn't explain how to actually enroll in the university. And I write more about that afterwards. Hi, so I would like to just shout out Nafir and Kit for joining Axioms. Thank you for your support. And I would also like to take this opportunity to share 2 massive resources that I found to be extremely helpful as a foreign student here, trying to figure out future plans. Mainly, studying itself is definitely the principal, technically it's your principal task, but at the same time, to legally do it, you need to make sure that you meet all the standards and the requirements of the state of France. So to make sure that you are able to comply with all the intelligibility possible, I recommend these 2 institutions. Well, one is like for us, if you get into Paris 1, it would be La Maison Internationale. They're both called this, but here's the coordinates for Paris 1, and they were really, really helpful. If you're already here, just call them and then they'll direct you to the correct email. The second, it is Accès de Paris Cité, and they are super duper sweet. You can have like an online visio with them as well, which I recently had, just to ask questions, and she was so full of information and so kind, and just pédagogique, which is basically like clarity. First thing, second thing, you ask a question and then she restarts from the beginning to just make sure that she doesn't forget any information. So I definitely recommend reaching out to them, and they've solved problems for me, and yeah, so I hope you find that helpful. And just to take us away before the next video, I would like to share this letter that I thought really helped, make me feel seen. What I mean by that is it's sometimes really hard to identify if you're doing enough, or it's just the situation is just difficult. That being said, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.